A deadly act of terror in Australia. Authorities say a father and son opened fire on a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach in Sydney, killing 15 people. Tragically, that included children, in what officials are calling a clear act of anti-Semitism. Police say the father was killed at the scene, while the son, who was also a shooter, remains hospitalized. Authorities say that this moment, caught on video, may have prevented even more bloodshed. You're seeing a hero bystander charging one of the gunmen, wrestling the gun away from the attacker. That man's name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed, and he is recovering from his wounds at the hospital. You can see him here with New South Wales Premier Chris Minns. Ahmed's immigration lawyer says he is a humble man. He's not interested in coverage. He just did what he was compelled to do as a human being on that day. The lawyer went on to say this is his way of conveying his gratitude for staying in Australia, for being granted citizenship. We've been hearing from witnesses, and here's one account from the scene.
I saw at least one gunman firing, looked like a shotgun, firing randomly in all directions. I saw children falling to the floor, so elderly I saw, invalids I saw, people just, it was an absolute bloodbath, blood gushing everywhere. October 7th, that's the last time I saw this.
Yeah, once again, a lot of prayers going out, Joey. The Sydney Morning Herald spoke with the lawyer of that hero bystander, and he said he's not well at all. He is riddled with bullets, so we pray for him, among others. There was a Holocaust survivor that was killed. There were children who were killed. There were 2 cops. It's the deadliest terror attack in Australia's history. And not only that, the deadliest attack against Jews since October 7th.
Yeah, the whole thing is hard to watch. It's hard to see. Those were families out there celebrating. So some of the things that people say that Australia has, they haven't banned guns. They've banned certain types of guns. They have strict gun laws. Things like this doesn't happen there often. But we were interviewing a couple of folks from Sky News yesterday on Big Weekend Show, and one of them said that it's even common for the police not to have guns, and that might be why this took place for so long. Even if police were there quickly, they may not have had the weaponry needed to counter the, I don't know if that's true. That's what she said. I don't live in Australia. I haven't been there. But that might be the case if guns aren't something they encounter very often. And it just makes me concerned. If you're going to have a gathering like that in this country, we think, okay, let's have security. Not because we think somebody's going to show up and shoot everyone, but you don't know what's going to show up. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things that I hope moving forward that folks do continue to gather and celebrate their holiday, their religious holiday, regardless of what their religion is. But they do also think with some sort of force protection as well. You just can't predict what it'll be, so you have to predict that it'll be bad and be ready for it.
Tommy, there were cascading policy failures here. Joey, you mentioned, one policy that we can look at. There were several, and Miranda Devine outlined it very clearly in the New York Post. Here's what she said. Unchecked anti-Semitism, cowardly appeasement, lax policing, and foolish immigration decisions half a century in gestation have coalesced in multicultural southwestern Sydney, an hour's drive from Bondi. Add to the mix strict gun control for law-abiding Australians, but not for homegrown Islamic terrorists. It was the perfect recipe for violence to erupt.
Yeah, and from speaking to the folks at Sky News this weekend, we got a lot more information about, culturally what's going on there, legally what's going on there, and then perhaps some of this unfettered immigration might come from certain political parties wanting to remain in control, so they have to appease certain parts of the population. Kind of sounds like maybe what's going on here in the United States, also many parts of Europe. So I think maybe that's something to take a look at. But also just the unchecked anti-Semitism. It's not enough for leaders to just go out and say, we condemn anti-Semitism. That's great. It's needed. It's important to say those words, but you need to do something about it. And when you have after October 7th, when you have these pro-Hamas groups in the streets saying horrible things and you're not acknowledging it, you're allowing this to continue, or you're even coddling it for fear of being called Islamophobic, then you give a pass in some ways for these things to just ramp up and to go from speech and horrible things being said about Jews to violence on Jews. And also, if you've got homegrown terror cells, I guess maybe the son was potentially someone who was being looked at previously as being part of potentially a terror cell in the country, but they never acted on it. Perhaps let's go back in and take a look at some of the other folks on that list and maybe just give it a once-over. Santa checks this list twice. Maybe check the list twice. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, he spared no words for the Australian Prime Minister Albanese, putting the blame for this directly at the feet of the policies there in Australia. Watch this.
Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
He's exactly right, Harris.
Look, we're about to find out whether or not the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is ready for the moment. So far, his comments have been rather generic, like he chat GPT'd it. Like he's going to have to lean in and take responsibility. Last hour, I had Darren Porcher on, formerly NYPD, and he and I actually had talked about Bondi Beach because he'd been there with his beloved not long ago, and he and she thought it was like the most beautiful thing. You know what he said today, though? He goes, yeah, but you know, I was aware of the fact that there was no police presence there. He said, and these are the things that I was thinking of. And I remember contemporaneously, he said that. He said, it must be a very safe place to live if you can't see one cop on the beach. Like, that's a problem, because you know who knows that? Anybody who would want to commit a crime. So you want to go out, you want to kill as many people as possible, and you don't want to be fettered. You don't want to be bothered. Apparently you go there. And I'm not saying that's the only place near Sydney. There was a cell, the ISIS reported cell in Sydney, so it's in that region. But they'll have to tell us whether or not this was part of that. What we do know is if it had been, they didn't have the tools to fight it that day. And that's really, really sad.
It's a problem. It's a warning for us, too. This is important to show. Here in our country, the United States, we have seen anti-Semitism have an increase of 900%. Emily, there's a reason I wanted to put this up. When you look at New York City, where we've seen a lot of that anti-Semitism on Columbia's campus, and you combine that with unfettered immigration, when you combine that with lax policing, when you combine that with strict gun control, all of the elements here, I hope this is a warning sign for Mayor Mamdani as he's coming in, that it is time to tamp down anti-Semitism, to embolden our police, because I do not want to see what happened in Australia happen on our shores.
Yeah. And I'm glad you came to me on that, because that's what I kept thinking about as we talk about unfettered, unchecked anti-Semitism. That is exactly why I kept saying how terrified I was for that individual to become mayor of New York City, because it's not just words, or it's not, oh, it's okay, it's economics, guys, you know, focus on that, focus on his policies. No, I will focus on the fact that he essentially, he refused to denounce global intifada, and he is a blatant anti-Semite, an anti-Israelite, an anti-Zionist, and so much more. And now he's in charge of our city. You're absolutely right. Miranda Devine laid out what that horrific recipe is, and I am grateful to Netanyahu, that prime minister, for calling it cancer cells instead of terror cells, because the whole point about cancer is that it's a malignancy that grows. Now, clearly, that dad is the older individual is now, I'm sure, being celebrated as a martyr in his own people. But I hope the son is trotted out, and I hope he becomes the face of this is what happens. And it goes to show, too, when ordinary individuals display that heroism. How grateful was that individual? He said, this is the least I can do. I'm so grateful for my citizenship. And then you counter that with what happens here, where people spit on this flag and spit on this ground and spit on the fact that they are given the opportunity to live here. That entire thing is so vulgar. And that, by the way, the video that showed the other guy that refused to cower, the other gentleman, it showed what a coward the shooters were. Fat and disgusting, emboldened only by their radicalization and the fact that they were holding a long gun. But when real men stepped up, that's when we saw real heroism. And I am sick and tired of hearing of so many Holocaust survivors that are dying in anti-Semitic attacks. We continue to hear that. This entire thing is unacceptable. I cannot wait for the Australian Prime Minister to step up, I hope, and for our country to set an example.
Yeah, and I think the cancer comparison is exactly right. It's a cancer malignancy, it's spreading, and we have to stop it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.